This is the Maharani Moment podcast, brought to you by Rebel City Distillery and Good Day Cork. A podcast where we discover moments of self-liberation that completely change one's life. Everybody is presented with choices to be the person they can be. Those are the moments we call the Maharani Moment. In this episode, we have Jeanie Jayanti, founder of the Alchemy School of Yoga, and Emma Fleury, owner of the Little Chickpea Company. Jeanie and Emma chat with Pagya Barrett, our host, and co-founder, owner of the Rebel City Distillery. They chat about their creativity, their aspirations, inspirations, and their Maharani moment. Sit back and enjoy.
Today in Maharani podcast, we have Jean from Alchemy School of Yoga. She is a yogi. She have moved on from a corporate job and found her calling in yoga. So today we are gonna know more about her journey and her story. So Jean, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. What a brilliant idea for a podcast.
We are so happy to have you here in our podcast today. So how was your day? How do you start your day? Do you meditate or do you do Surya Namaskars? How do you start your day?
Oh, it sounds very obvious, but I did actually start my day with Surya Namaskar. There are times when I feel like moving and times when I feel like really resting. And so I'm pretty dedicated to my yoga practice in the morning. However, sometimes it could be 5 minutes of sitting in stillness. Other mornings it could be an hour and a half being upside down. Some mornings it's consciously choosing not to do a practice and just, reading a book or doing something else. But probably for the last 4 years, I've been practicing yoga maybe 10 years and teaching nearly 7 years. But it's only really in the last 3.5, 4 years that I've been really dedicated to my practice. So yeah, I did start my day with yoga. But if you'd asked me another day, I could equally have said that I had a coffee.
So how many Surya Namaskars can you do in one shot? For me, it's like 5 and 10 and I'm like, oh no, I'm so tired. So how many can you go? Like 10?
If I'm left on my own, I'll probably do 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6. And then sometimes I follow a class that my teacher has online where you do 12. And I think knowing that someone else is counting them and pacing them is easier. I have done 108 a few times, like as a challenge. But, it's like the sacred number 108 and you do it. It takes 2.5 to 3 hours. But I definitely don't do that every morning.
You have an honors degree in chemistry, you worked in pharma sector, so you quit that and then ventured out into yoga. So what was your calling?
It's really funny. I didn't put a huge amount of thought into it, and I wish I could say I did, that I had a big plan or something. And I just very much had one of those zing moments where my body was like, yes, that's what you're going to do. And that almost ended the thought process. I wasn't even that aware that I had the zing moment. It just kind of happened. And then, which I've noticed happens a lot in life, all these little bits that had to happen for that to happen just fell into place. And, I did have some awareness around it, but it was like, here's this thing I'm really interested in and that I love doing, and I'm pretty sure I'll be good at. And so I'm going to give it a try. And then through all the challenges and hardships, you need that kind of, storehouse of energy to keep you going when times are hard. And if you run out of that, it's usually not for you, or you're not able to adapt or change to the challenges, which I think everyone is figuring out at these times, especially this year we've had. But yeah, it was like, here's this thing that I love doing. I think I'm good at it and it'll definitely help people. And so it was this beautiful kind of circular thing that I could do. Yeah.
Yeah. And did your travels it kind of influence you move into yoga?
Yeah. When I first went to India, I was 19 and I hadn't discovered yoga at all. But the minute the doors opened in Delhi airport, I felt like I was at home. And anyone who's been to Delhi airport before they did it up, they'll remember it wasn't a very nice airport. But just something about it really resonated with me. And I spent 4.5, almost 5 months there. And so I really integrated into the culture and the people. And even when I came home, I remember my sister saying to me, Jean, you can't be friends with everyone because they're Indian. Like I would see someone Indian on the street and I'd be like, hi, I want to be your friend. I want to talk to you. And she was like, they might not want to be your friend. But something about being there and the people and the culture, I felt like I was at home. I felt like I had been there before, I'd lived there before. And even at the time, I wouldn't have used that wording. It wouldn't have been in my vocabulary. I was a scientist, and I was very much about what you could see and prove. But yet that feeling was still there. And I went back a second time, still having a huge draw, or like in Ireland, we say a graw, a love for the place. I had such a graw for India. And it wasn't until the third time I went back that I had really discovered yoga. And then it just all kind of slotted into place. I was like, this is the fundamental philosophy of the place I love so much. Of course I love it,
And Jean, what's your Maharani moment? A moment where you had a liberation, where you attained moksha, a very powerful and strong moment in your life. Could you please share that with us?
Sure. I was having a think about this and, I wanted there to be this moment where the heavens opened and, lightning came down and there was a marching band and, but if anything, I think for me, it was like a deep moment of peacefulness, which is probably moksha in itself, liberation. And when I first went to India, I had a lot of issues around food. I didn't like food touching and, I was like a toddler, but I was 19. And it really highlighted to me when I was there because I was around all these people who ate all this amazing flavor and I was scared of a lot of food. And then I went back a few times and it was always in my mind, the food, how you're going to struggle with the food. And then on one of the teacher trainings I did in 2017, the food was served to us. And so I wasn't in control of where the food was put. This sounds so silly. And, all this food was piled onto my plate and it was all touching and it was all mixing. And it just didn't bother me at all. And I think this is so crazy, but it was this moment where I was like, it wasn't the food I was trying to control. I was trying to control my environment or, how I responded to things. And actually, this was this moment of absolute peacefulness where I was like, very little is bothering me right now. And I don't think that moment was moksha. I think that moment made me realize that moksha, liberation, had been slowly over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, just gently building up. To the point where it was like, I'm relaxed in a very new, strange environment. I'm okay with not knowing what's going to happen. I'm okay with being out of my comfort zone. And so that bowl of rice and spoon of dal highlighted to me that moksha had been slowly creeping in through all the work I was doing, mainly through yoga. So I don't know, is that the answer you guys wanted to hear, but it's for sure the truthful one.
Can you eat with hands now? In India, we eat our food with the hands. Do you eat with hands now?
Yeah, so especially I try and do it a lot more when I'm at home because it's so sensory, it's so beautiful. And it's, one of the aspects of Ayurveda as well, to use all your senses. But definitely when I'm in India, I've been watching all the people and, often I have like sauce running down my hand and they're pristine and clean. So I'm getting there and I'm definitely getting the action. But the food kind of thing is something very tangible that you do every day, and that's how I noticed it. But it's definitely in all aspects of my life that it was creeping in. And I'm by no means a guru who never loses their cool or, gets upset. But it's definitely, looking back at my earlier years, I definitely feel so much more comfortable being alive now, and if anything, what more can we ask for? That you are just able to live a beautiful life regardless of what's happening. Yeah.
Have yoga changed your food habits in any way?
Yeah, for sure. I used to always like vegetarian food, and my mom, considering we grew up in the 80s in Ireland where no one was a vegetarian, my mom predominantly fed us vegetarian food. We did have meat, all right, but it wasn't very heavy. And then over the last maybe 5 years, I've been more and more vegetarian. The odd time I still do eat meat, but very consciously, very mindfully, and it's the best way I find I can get a balance, especially here in cold, dark winter Ireland. I definitely find I need it more. However, that's one aspect going along with, let's say, ahimsa and things like that. But it's definitely more, I have always loved food, but I definitely treated it as, a reward and punishment kind of mentality. Whereas what yoga's really helped me understand is food is food, food is medicine, and food is ritual, that they can be this glorious thing that you share with people to mark an occasion. It could be something that you ingest to heal yourself if you're ill, and it's something you consciously, or I try now to consciously choose every day to make me feel wonderful. Again, it sounds so simple, but to be able to get up in the morning and not be in pain, or to get up in the morning and my digestion is doing well, or my skin is well, and I definitely view food as a system, a philosophy, as opposed to this thing of reward and punishment because a beauty magazine says you have to look this way. So yoga definitely has changed my food, and I've brought it into a lot of the work I do. You might only get to a yoga class once a week, but you'll eat 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. And so if you can switch that mentality around food, then you can make a huge impact on your life. And yoga really does start in the kitchen, I think. And I love, in general, the Indian culture around food and sharing and eating and celebrating. It's really beautiful.
A massive feast we have, like, for all our, there are even festivals back home in my homeland, Kerala. We have a festival where we serve the food on a banana leaf, and we have like 20-30 curries and then rice and 5 flavors of dessert. So it's like a massive feast, it's like huge. Yeah, it's a very kind of integral part of the culture, and calling the people and celebrating together and all those. So Jean, what's your favorite kind of music? You are into kirtan and bhajans and all those. Is that your favorite kind of music?
It's interesting. My father is a musician, and so we grew up with music. We grew up listening to every type of music. And I find it hard to have one type that I love. I tend to, similar to my yoga practice, tune into how I feel. And, I could be listening to gangster rap one day and, a kirtan the next day. But I think to answer your question, more succinctly, there's 2 types of music that literally, not necessarily tug at my heartstrings, but like turn my body alive. And they definitely would be the more Indian or the more Celtic styles of music, which apparently are quite similar in their origins and their sounds. And I've come across a few people recently who are blending Indian and Celtic Irish music, and they go so well together. And similar to when I first arrived in India, there's definitely a huge, I'm Irish through and through. I think for about 5 generations on both sides, at least I'm from Cork, So as much as I feel at home in India, I feel so at home in Ireland. I'm a I'm an Irish Colleen for sure. And so hearing, I suppose, the sounds of my, I suppose, ancestors is absolutely beautiful. It really resonates with me, and just, it's almost meditative. It's a kind of a closing your eyes and absorbing moment for sure.
Where do you derive your inspiration from? Like whenever you feel stuck, is there anything which kind of pushes you forward? What's your inspiration?
That's a really good question. I've never actually thought about it before, which is probably interesting in itself. I definitely have a huge passion to live a beautiful life. And I always said that, if I was going to leave that permanent, pensionable, stable job, I wasn't going to then become a slave to my next job, even if it was something I adored doing. And there's been many times I've had to make difficult decisions around business where I could have gone one way to make more money, but I knew it was going to lead to either, a lack somewhere else, where there was a lack of my free time or a lack of my enjoyment, or a lack of integrity, actually. And so I think probably my fundamental inspiration is that every single day I want to live a beautiful life. And of course, there's days where you're like, I never want to remember that day again. And then there's other days that are maybe nothing actually happens, but you feel wonderful. And then there's those huge moments that you'll always remember as well. But I think most of my inspiration and motivation comes from that. And in business and in yoga, I feel like we all need to do that a bit more, come back to ourselves, our true selves, not what society says we should do, not what your neighbor did that made them successful. It's like, no, what are you doing every day? And actually, this might be another moksha moment, was the time I realized I am in full control of what I do. I think for years I lived my life for someone else, and to have that moment where it's like, nope, I can choose to say no to that and I'm not going to die, or I can choose to say something different or walk down a different path. And okay, it's scary, but it definitely leads to, I feel, a more beautiful life. And so in yogic philosophies, you could say I'm dedicated to living my dharma every day, knowing that will evolve and change. But that's definitely where I get my motivation. And I think having a routine or a ritual in your day to day really helps, because that's your benchmark where you can be like, God, I'm really not in a good place today, or I'm doing really well, or you're somewhere in between. And like I said at the start, my daily practice has been huge. Even when I'm not doing my practice, you notice, that's part of it too. That it's not dogmatic and strict, but that's something you're choosing.
Jean, for your valuable time. As you said, self-realization is very important, and mindful living. I think that's the way to a peaceful life, isn't it? Thanks, Jean, for your valuable time. It was really lovely talking to you, and wishing you all the best on your next journey to India. And do come visit Kerala as well. Kerala is beautiful. It's the land of Ayurvedas. There are so many things you can explore in Kerala as well. So do visit Kerala in your next journey to India.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vicky.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
A message from Rebel City Distillery. Rebel City Distillery is the first distillery in Cork City in 50 years. Maharani Gin is the first product of Rebel City Distillery, which sources botanicals from a women's farming collective in South India. This collective is called Vanamulika. The women practice organic farming method and are based in Kerala. Please drink responsibly.
Hi, Emma. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So today we have Emma with us, the chickpea brain behind Little Chickpea Company. Welcome to today's Maharani Moment podcast, Emma. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
How's your day going? Good?
It's good. Pretty uneventful. I'm in isolation at the moment because someone I live with has COVID. So yeah, it's been pretty chilled. Not a whole
How
lot
many
going
days?
on, but
How many days left now?
I think we're just over halfway through, so maybe like another less than a week. I just got my second test today, actually, because you get one test and then you get a second test. So please God, the second test is negative, because if it's positive, then we have another 2 weeks, and I don't know how I'll cope if we have to do that.
Hope all goes well, Emma.
Yeah, we'll know tomorrow. So fingers crossed for me.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. So Emma, so what's a kind of favorite cuisine? Is there any kind of favorite cuisine you have which influenced you to begin or start the Little Chickpea Company?
Favorite cuisine? Probably anything kind of Asian. So I love working with spices, curries, falafels, things like that. Like I like food that has a lot of flavor. So yeah, I would say Asian, but like I kind of get inspiration from all different cuisines of food. And obviously everything I make is veggie, so I like to get creative with creating new recipes with as many vegetables as I can. Keep things interesting.
What's your kind of food philosophy?
Food philosophy. I guess I see food as like, I don't know, a way to kind of connect with people. Like cooking for someone, like say for instance now the person that I live with, they can't leave their room, so I have to cook all of their meals. So like we're trying to do nice things for him, like make really nice meals and like display it cute with cards and stuff. So like that in itself is like an act of love, I guess, which cooking for someone can be. Yeah.
And food connects people, and a happy tummy is a happy person, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And like most good memories like revolve around food, like whether it's a dinner party or an event or something, you're going out for a meal with friends. So yeah.
So do you listen to any kind of music when you cook?
Yeah, at the moment, or most of the time, it's a lot of 80s kind of pop rock. So at the moment I'm listening to a lot of Tin Lizzy. Well, they're more 70s maybe, but The Cure, music like that. Kind of music that I grew up listening to from my parents.
Did you learn cooking, or is that you loved it and you started doing it and you got better each day with it? Did you train to be a cook?
No, not at all. I just made it up as I went along. It was kind of out of necessity, really. Like I lived at home until I was 22, so I was pretty spoiled by my mom. Like we got cooked really nice meals all the time, and then I moved out, so then I was like, crap, I gotta learn how to cook for myself. So I think through like having to do that, I kind of developed a love of food and cooking, because I was like, wow, I can make exactly anything I want to eat, and it was that freedom that like made me fall in love with cooking, I guess.
Emma, I was looking at your design of the company, Little Chickpea Company. It's very cute.
Yeah.
It has a chickpea as well. Did you come up with the design for the company?
Yeah, I did. Handy, actually, because I studied graphic design in college. And then when I graduated, I worked as a graphic designer for a few years in a few different jobs, in lovely places, but I just didn't really love the graphic design work. Just like being in front of a computer 9 to 5 just like didn't suit me at all mentally. So then that's when I started Little Chickpea. But it's handy because now, I have those skills that I can use to do like my own branding and like marketing and stuff. So I guess it kind of worked out. Still using it like so.
Emma, you moved from graphic designing into starting up your own company. So what was your inspiration to push forward and keep going?
Well, I guess at the time, what was I doing? I was working for a design company in Limerick, but I was working remotely from Cork, and I had to travel up and down a couple of days a week. And then I think it came to a point where they wanted me to move to Limerick and work there full time. And I just knew straight away that was just not something I was going to do for this kind of work. And because that was such an easy decision for me to make, I was like, your head is just not in this design stuff. Like, it just doesn't suit you. So I quit that job. And then like, I just knew that I didn't want to be in an office in front of a computer. Well, like at least not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I wanted something with more variety, and I wanted something maybe more social, but still creative. And this was kind of around the same time where I had moved out of home. So I was beginning that journey of like cooking for myself and like getting interested in food. And that was when I was starting to get into veganism and nutrition. So I was like, food business, that could work. So I guess I just started experimenting in the kitchen. I think I started making like different flavors of hummus at the start. And I was like, that might work. But then I quickly realized like that wasn't going to be enough, just hummus. And even that angle, like food retail, I suppose, is kind of a tough gig. Like it's tough to get your stuff on the shelf. And even if you kind of get it to sell, it's hard to get good margins on that kind of stuff if you're competing with like bigger companies. I always liked the idea of farmers markets. Like I always thought like that could be a nice lifestyle. Like I like the social aspect of it. And I started trying to make other products with chickpeas. I think I made like chickpea burgers and falafels and chickpea brownies. And then I think I came up with the name The Little Chickpea Company, and I was like, okay, that's catchy, like let's roll with this. So then I just did a Skibbereen market. That was the first one I did on a Saturday, a really windy Saturday, I'll never forget. Just selling a few of those things. I had my mom helping me, and yeah, I guess the rest is history. Just kind of been making it up as I go along ever since then.
And with the corona, was there any kind of impact to your business, and how did you manage to overcome all those challenges? Was there
It was hard in that markets were gone and it was a bit of a scary time. But I had been doing the neighborhood food. I don't know if you've heard about that, but that's
yes,
like,
I love it.
Yeah, it's great. So I think at the time they only had a Cork City one that I was doing. And it's a website, and that all online producers have their products online, and you can go on and order like online shopping from all different producers, and then we get our orders in say a day before. You have a day to produce them, and then you go drop them to the pickup point, and then the customers collect them. So it's great. So because everyone was freaked out because Corona, no one could leave the house, that really took off, and that was great for me because even just from a business perspective, obviously it was great, but like mentally to have something to do every day was fantastic. And then they kept making new collection points. So I think I was doing like 4 or 5 or 6 collection points a week. And the orders were just crazy. So it was great. Yeah. So actually lockdown was good for business.
That's great. And also, do you see there is a lot of people who are moving into healthy eating habits and into vegan food? Do you see a shift in the eating habits?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, especially like even before I started, I could see that veganism was growing, or I suppose veganism was always there, but the industry was growing. Like you have to remember in 2018, say, now everywhere has a vegan option. You go to Burger King, you go to Domino's, they all have a vegan option. That wasn't the case a few years ago. And I could see that was happening like in the likes of the UK and stuff. And usually they say like what happens in business or food business, at least over there, will eventually translate to Dublin and then down to Cork. So yeah, I guess I got in at the right time, and yeah, it's growing, so it's great.
Right. And Emma, what's your Maharani moment, a moment where you felt really powerful and very strong? Is there a moment which would you like to share that with us?
It has to be choosing to leave the career that I had my degree in and that I had experience in, which was graphic design, and deciding to become self-employed. And I guess it's my Maharani moment just because it was a big risk and I wasn't afraid of it. I wasn't afraid to fail, and I think that's like the main thing. And now I'm doing a job that I love and that I'm so passionate about, and like I'm proud of it because it's been 3 or so years and I supported myself fully from like this business that I have created, which is like solely down to me. And it's I guess it's liberating to be completely self-sufficient in that, you know, I make the food, I go to the market and set up the stall and cook it and all that. So I can decide like when I want to work, how much I want to work, and I can kind of create my lifestyle around that rather than like the Monday to Friday 9 to 5, which I found tough, but the graphic design. So yeah, I guess that's my Maharani moment. Just can't be afraid to fail.
So Emma, wishing you good luck with your business, and thanks for your valuable time. It was a delight hearing your experiences. Thanks a lot, Emma.
It was lovely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap, folks. Episode 2 of Maharani Moment podcast. My name is Jo, and I am from Good Day Cork. Myself and Bhagya together, we thank you so much for listening, and let us know your Maharani moment. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful Christmas and a safe and a joyful New Year. Take care. Bye.